Okay.
Your earrings, your ears.
Okay, so how many of you procrastinate? I'm sure all of you do. Last week we had a practice impromptu. We talked about how it was amusement versus education and how much people prefer to just do whatever they feel is fun instead of like important things like education or maybe your job or maybe something in your personal lives. So my quote was, "For too much rest itself becomes a pain," and it's by Homer. So the way I interpret this quote is that it's talking about procrastination. When you rest a little, you feel fine, but when you rest too much, when you don't do any work done, when you procrastinate, eventually it'll hurt you more than just doing what you're supposed to do would have done. Yeah, so I have to say that I agree with this quote very strongly, because of my personal experience with procrastination and how much it has affected my life and how much I struggle with it even today. And so I'll be talking about how, procrastination, it doesn't work, it doesn't solve anything, how important it is that we do what we can to be the best we can, and I'll also give, my story about procrastination. So first off, problems will never go away. If you ignore them or not do them, they're still there. You have less time to deal with them now, and you have to rush what you could have done much more easily with more time. So I have a quote. I'm not sure where it's from, but don't do tomorrow what you can do today. And I think that makes a lot of sense. Don't just wait and say I have time tomorrow or next weekend. Do what you have to do it early, so it's off your mind, and you can really enjoy the things you want to do instead of focusing on the idea of the work you have to do later. So, I think it's very important for us, especially because right now we're at a very critical time in our lives. We're in our teens or 20s. What we do now will determine who we are for the rest of our life. So do your best. I know it sounds cliche, but you really should right now, especially right now. If it's worth doing, it's worth overdoing. Don't just half-ass it. Make sure when you're done with it, you feel satisfied. You don't feel regret that you didn't do everything you could. I think one of the worst feelings ever is feeling regret about how much better you could have done something, but you just put it off until it's too late. So for me during high school, I didn't try as well as I should have. I went to all my classes, I did all my homework, but I would do last minute. The class before, if I had a test, I would study during lunch. And if I just spent an extra hour or two the day before, maybe I could have gone to the college of my choice. Maybe I could have gone to LA or SD. And I don't know, I feel regret now that I never really applied myself, and now I'll never know what I could have been after high school. After those 4 years, I didn't really accomplish much. Yeah, so right now I'm trying to do better, during community college, trying to just do homework, at least the day before, not the day of, trying to go to classes earlier, make sure I just get things out of the way so I don't have to worry about them later. So I talked about how problems don't go and you have to do them, talked about how, important our lives are right now and we shouldn't put them off, and I gave my own personal story about how procrastination has affected me and how I still struggle with it every day. So, yeah, in conclusion, I really agree with this quote because it talks a lot about how much time we really have, and it's not a lot. It's not as much as you think. So, I think it's best to make sure you can do as much with it as you can right now. Thank you.
All right, Jason, I thought you were very involved in the content issues that you were talking about, and there's a clear structure that you follow. You have an interesting interpretation of what the topic is, and you come up with a thesis with it, so that's fine. I thought on some of your personal examples you missed some details that might make it a little bit more interesting, but content issues you're not having any problem with. The delivery issues, for the most part, are solid, but they're not really they're not pushing the audience any. You seem kind of laid back and willing to just do a good job instead of step up and be a little bit more energetic and involved in the presentation. It seems like you're kind of laid back while you're giving the speech, and I think that especially when you're talking about personal things, it might make more sense to be more involved. The big piece of paper in your hand is distracting the whole time you're speaking. You play with it. It limits your gestures to some degree, and then the gestures that you do have, they seem noticeably, that's the one place where I saw any anxiety coming out. There was like this head scratching thing that you did at one point, a little bit of uncertainty, or you're rolling the paper around your finger a bit, and I think that you don't want to have the big page in your hands while you're giving these speeches. I would suggest to everybody that you not use notes while you're doing an impromptu speech. It looks very awkward, and you're much more likely to engage the audience more. You look at the audience for the most part, but you do keep looking at the notes. And the other thing that I noticed is that the right side of the class gets no love from you whatsoever. It's like they don't even exist. And I think you need to change the orientation of your body a little bit while you're speaking too. You are making eye contact, but it's just your eyes. It's not really your head and the rest of your body. And so it's another one of those things that makes it feel like you're meeting the minimum requirements, but you're not, like I said, pushing forward and doing a little bit more to connect. So there's nothing that's hugely problematic. They're just good places that you can improve. All right, thank you.